Hello everyone, my name is Vladimir and welcome back to the video version of Architecture Weekly newsletter. In issue number 40, we're talking about Pegasus DB, State of Observability Report, Outbox pattern, and many more. Let's go. And I want to start with Pegasus DB. So databases nowadays are like JavaScript frameworks 10 years ago. New week, new database. And this time Apache presents a new database, which is based on the RocksDB engine. And it targets to fill the gap between Redis and HBase. They promise to have a lot of features like data persistence using Pacifica protocol. They promise to have strong consistent replication, automatic load balancing, cold backup, eventually consistent intra-data center replication, client libraries, and so on. I am sharing the link to their GitHub repository, so go check this out. Speaking about the databases, the next thing I want to share is the article about how the SQLite virtual machine works. So everybody likes sandwiches, right? Imagine you have a sandwich making machine and there's a query language that you can ask this machine to make you a sandwich with some ham and cheese and so on. So this article uses this analog to explain how SQL language work, how the query is being interpreted, and what is the plan for the queries are. So check out the article. By the way, speaking of the databases, I'm reading now the book of database internals, and next week I will try to start covering some of their chapters explaining the ideas of how the databases work. So if you like this particular newsletter and you want to see those videos, make sure to subscribe and leave some comments so that I know that this content will be interesting. Let's continue. The next article I'm speaking about is the understanding upgrade failures in distributed systems. And the whole idea is that upgrading failures that happen in those systems are very unique. So those failures are only happen when you try to upgrade some pieces of software in your cluster and then something goes wrong. And it appears that there are some techniques that can help you to test those failures and help you avoid them. So please read about that. There's a great article about by Andrei Satarin about this particular issue. Okay, next thing is about mobile. So Lyft is a company that provides mobility services like taxi, ride sharing, scooters, and so on. And they wrote an article about the app stability, and the article is about the mobile app stability and how they work with crashes. The good idea in this article is that they're approaching it with a data-driven way. So they really analyze what happens in their mobile application, what crashes are the most impactful, and try to tackle the most serious of them. So check out the article. Next thing is an article by Joshua Bloch. Do you know who he is? He wrote a book, Effective Java, and I wrote those like 10 years ago. And it appears that he wrote an article about API design 16 years ago, but it's still actual. So he provides some receipts on how to think about APIs and that actually every programmer is a API designer. So best practices will help you to build a better API. Check those advices out. Okay, next thing is a case by a company called Box, basically a Dropbox concurrent. And the article is about migrating their 80 terabytes dataset from HBase hosted on-premise to Bigtable to cloud without downtime, because like if people can't access their files, they will not be happy. So they wrote about how they were migrating that, and the most important takeaway is that you actually need to test and provide a proof of concept of using a particular product you want to migrate to and see what caveats are there with this product before actually migrating some production data. Check out the article for more details. Okay, next one is the state of the observability report by Splunk, and Splunk specializes in creating the tools for observability and monitoring, and they provided a detailed PDF on the trends for the observability. And one of the most advanced advice that they give in this particular report, by my opinion, is that you really need to start doing artificial intelligence for your alerting, because like doing only thresholds is a very simple way of thinking about wrong things that happens in your system. So you really need to have some AI to understand if the problem is really arises or is just, you know, a normal fluctuation. So see the report. Next one is as a design pattern, Outbox pattern for guaranteed delivery, and it's all about message delivery, right? So there are different types of guarantees, and this article is talking about at least once guarantee. So you really, when you really need to make sure that your message delivers at least once, so maybe multiple times, but that's okay. Then you might want to use the Outbox pattern when you first of all commit the messages to the database and then try to send them to the queue. And if this fails, you will just retry sending them from this database. And only once it gets messaged to the queue, then you can delete it. So read the article. Another one is a cloud cost as an engineering problem, and this is a very introductory and explorational article about why you don't need to think about your infrastructure cost as a finance problem, but rather an engineering problem, an architecture problem. Because the most impactful thing of your infrastructure cost is not a resource that you forgot to turn off, but actually how your application, your solution is structured, and this drives the most cost of your infrastructure. So think about the cost not as a financial problem, but rather as an engineering problem, and a cost should be like an NFR to your system. So pay attention to this. The last one for today is the best practices for a secure cluster in EKS. And you might remember that in the last issue, I was including a video about like the hacker's approach to Kubernetes security. And this time, this is a checklist of best practices for a secure AWS Kubernetes cluster. So just read through the article and see if you're using them. And I think that's it for today. Thank you very much. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, share it to your friends and colleagues. And of course, if you really like the newsletter and the work I do, make sure to subscribe to Patreon or Boosty for early access to the videos, to some articles, and for access to a private group of architects where we discuss some architectural problems. Thank you very much, and see you in a week.